Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Marriage is Tougher Than Woodpecker Lives podcast. This is Brian, joined by my co host, Paul. We'd like to welcome you to a community meant for the men of the world to share their thoughts and perspectives on marriage. We can learn from each other's experiences and help each other be better husbands. This week on the pod, we want to talk to you about seasonal transitions, the importance of when it changes from summer to fall, all the things that happen there, being in tune, in step with your spouse.
Before we hop all the way into the episode, we'd just like to welcome you if this is your first time. And if this isn't your first time, thanks for rocking with us again. If you'd like to go deeper in this conversation, you can hit us up searching Marriage is Tougher on any social media channel. You can also go to marriageistopper.com, click the comment button, and leave a comment below. If you'd like to be a guest, you can do that as well. Fill out the comment section, let us know who you are and what you'd like to talk about. We'll reach back out to you and get you on the pod. If at any point in this conversation it hits you or you feel any value add, feel free to share, and you can always like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Let's hop into this episode.
Yeah, man. So I like that you brought this up because I feel like I'm a different man than I was last year. I'm a different husband than I was last year, right? Specifically when it comes to school lunch.
Okay, tell me more.
So my point is, I think I've explained or shared with you before that we typically divide and conquer at nighttime, right? One is typically with the kids, getting them ready for bed. And then the other is usually like cleaning up the kitchen, doing school lunches. There was a time where I'd be fully in for, cleaning up after cooking, doing the dishes and all that, putting everything away in the refrigerator. And then I would just somehow neglect and or forget to make lunches for the kids, right? And then my wife would come downstairs after having done all that, and she's like, "Did you make lunches?" I'm like, nope, sorry. She'd be super tight about it, which I
Yeah.
understand. This year, however, I have been much, much better about just getting that done. It's part of the process, right? Um, I don't know, man. It's not something that we have specifically spoken about this year, but I see how it affected her last year. So I'm trying to be more intentional about making sure that when she comes down, everything is just set. And then we as a couple have time together.
Yeah. Crushing those school lunches, man. Love it.
It's something small, but it's
Yeah.
also like very big in her world, right?
I understand. It's that small thing that gives you time back that you don't think like, if I just do this, and I can get a little bit more time. One, it considers her and she feels seen and like, oh, like I'm not the only one pulling this load, which is another thing that for me is big. Um, so yeah, I mean, it is that season of transition. Like we're going from summer to back to school for those with school agers, or even, a more consistent work schedule because you're not, trying to schedule holidays or vacations. It's like, all right, let's settle in and buckle up till Christmas season. So, um, yeah, I think for me, it's a time. My wife and I had the conversation recently. It was like, man, we're just like ships passing in the night, right?
Mhm.
Um, so it's something. It's good to be intentional and do the thing. Make sure you do the things that you consistently do. Right, because she said playfully, like, "You haven't massaged me in, like, 72 days," right? But it's something
72
that
days is
right.
very specific.
But, it was an over exaggeration to make it feel playful, but then also like, "Hey, like, I haven't, gotten I'm a physical touch person. We haven't done this, in a while." Um, and we just got a little busy, and then we didn't sync up our normal routine. So I was asleep before she was asleep or in bed, and that just didn't, happen. So it's just those little things that you got to remember to stay connected uh, in the time of transition, especially this seasonal transition for sure.
I got you. I just want to take a quick break here we're live on TikTok. Could y'all put a one in the chat if the audio is good? You can hear us. I just want to make sure if I need to make any adjustments or not. For anybody listening to the recording, we're live on TikTok right now. So you can catch us on Saturday mornings recording the podcast live and then listen back. Because what I've learned is the more you listen, especially if you repeat it, the more you'll learn. You'll catch something that we may have spoken about the second time around. Question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, with your wife, stay in step? Like, what types of conversations? What are you doing to make time for those conversations? Just give me a picture of what that looks like in your world to make sure when these seasonal transitions happen and, the seemingly minute or maybe even big things change, what is it that you guys are doing to make sure that happens smoothly and that you're on the same page?
Yeah, it's definitely intentionality and priority, right? So it's knowing and being okay with it not being how you want. Example, right? Ideally, I would love to have a sit down conversation for maybe 15, 20 minutes and say, hey, this is what's happening. Let's do everything. But in this season, to stay connected, it's like, hey, I have 15 minutes here. She has 15 minutes there. We'll either give a call or a text, and then we just hop with right in the update that needs to happen.
Okay.
So we may have had more time in the summer to kind of sit down and do that, or once we find the rhythm, later in the season, we'll have some more sit down time. But for now, it's okay with it not being ideal to just being able to, we'd have to connect some way. So let's figure out uh, conversationally, like connecting in that way, just being on the same page, which helps you feel connected. Let's just have that conversation as needed. So if you feel like you need to call. If I can pick up, I can. If I can't, because I'm at work, I won't. But I'll circle back and give you a call there. So don't be afraid to make it like if it's phone calls or even texts. If it's during the day, if your evening rhythm is out of sync, because Bella's doing one in-season sport and one kind of prep sport for basketball, right? So she's got games and practices, and she's very involved in singing and worship and school stuff. So it's like every night could be a thing. So we don't have the evenings as much time in the evenings as we did in the summer, especially because it's bedtime and all that stuff and trying to get ready for the day. So it's being intentional, being okay for it to not look like it doesn't, but also reaching out. Just try whatever way you communicate best. Make sure you stay communicating. So if it's text, if it's call, if it's FaceTime, whatever. And then just being able to have those conversations is as succinct as you can. Because for us, we don't have a lot of time. So
Yeah. And you have me thinking about those days where you magically have nothing to do. Like no kids events. You get to just chill, get some stuff done around the house. And, for us, what that looks like is, we're spending more time focused with the children or maybe even focused on ourselves. But, I remember last weekend we were coming off of, let's see, an all day cheer competition on Saturday and then all day biddy football and cheer on Sunday. And it was hot. I mean, we put the canopies up and we got the side panels and all that, but it's just an all day affair back to back. And now we have another one coming up as well, which I feel like I kind of got tricked into making that a mini vacation because it's at a resort in the Poconos.
yep, you definitely did.
So now we're there for 2 days.
Yeah.
But, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, man. What I wanted to say is we have not yet been as intentional about the communication piece of these transitions. I think we're operating mostly off of where we've been in the past, learning what works and what doesn't work,
Mm-hmm.
and just attempting to be there to support each other as these changes happen, right? Um, I also told you like we're exploring the idea of a new business venture, which is going to be time consuming,
Mm-hmm.
right? So outside of the seasonal transition, I mean, that is a marriage transition, right? I was explaining to her, I would really like you to join me on this venture, right? Our current business, she is hands off, right? Uh, she is aware of the happenings, but she's just very much hands off, which is fair because it doesn't interest her. At this point, it doesn't interest me anymore. Like we're ready to get rid of it. Um, but this new venture, I think, is something that we could do together. She can see why I get so excited about entrepreneurship, and I think pulling her into that and making space for her to create her own path within the business is going to be great. So, would you have any advice on how I might be able to not just speak to my wife, like speak at my wife about this venture that I would like to do,
Mm-hmm.
but how I could make that space for her to allow her to develop her own interest in what could be good for the family?
I think the what keeps coming to me is how was the conversation before you made the decision to pull the trigger, right? If you were able
Do you want me to
to,
answer that?
yeah, like how
Okay,
was
good.
that?
I can give you some more context.
Yeah,
So this is something that I think I was probably going to do either way.
gotcha.
As I learned more about it, I found that, oh, this is something that she could be interested in as well. So let me approach her and see if she would be interested at all in just entertaining the idea,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I went into explaining, some of the details to it, what the cost might be, and just even gave her some ideas of how she could engage some of her friends, uh, and engage some of the activities she already does, right? So like I said, looking for ideas on Etsy and
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature, and then also offering her the opportunity to learn new skills.
Right. Yeah. So if that didn't appeal to her as much as you thought, I think just being uh, continue to communicate as you learn more, and continue to be excited. Um, Obviously, be transparent with her on what's going on, but if you can continue to highlight the positive parts of it, and if you stay excited, she will get into it. As long as you set your expectations and give an account for how it's going, make sure you're doing all the things that you're going to say you're going to do so she can see like this is a consistent space for him, so where can I jump in and help him grow, because right, a wife always wants to see her husband flourish and kind of step in line with and how to see how she can enhance. So as she sees you're consistent, she'll be able to have like, okay, there's some things here, some things there. Oh, I see how he's doing this is exciting, let's keep this going, how can we make it better? So I think as long as you stay positive and stay committed and stay consistent, um, there's no way she wouldn't be more. Just that is, I would say, for me, is an attractive thing for wives to see in their husband. So if you do those things, she'll already be like, oh, like, yeah, this is the man I married. Like, let's get it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because you've already laid it out for her, the things that she's done. So like, you don't have to harp on it,
right.
but you can just continue to update her like, hey, this has happened, this is my idea, let's see how this works. Like, okay, I tried this and this is what happened, and just give her account of how it's going on. And as you stay consistent, she'll lock in step for sure.
Yeah,
That's what
that
I
makes a
think.
lot of sense. And I am trying to be intentional about not making it come across as this is about me,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's the communication has very much been this is for us. This is something that can be by us. Um, I'm not trying to, you know, force you into it by any stretch. Um, but I would be appreciative if you were interested and would like to do it. But then I'm also trying to set the expectation that, you know, I don't want you to be half-hearted about it, right? So, and I think that's been the difficult thing for me because how can she buy into something that she doesn't necessarily know too much about yet?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm offering her the ability to taste, right?
Right.
Um, but then there will come a point where I will have to make that difficult ask of, are you in or out?
Right.
Right. And very clearly defining what my perception of in is.
Mm.
Right. And it's not just like, here's what I want. It's coming from a place of experience of here's what it's going to take.
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic, right? Because you set it up as this was something that I was going to do anyway,
Mhm.
but at the same time, you're like, I want you to come alongside.
Right.
So it wasn't we're going to do this. It's basically, I'm going to do this, and I want you to come alongside with me, even though it is for the family, because
Right.
everything you do is for the family.
Right.
So that's almost a non-factor, right? She knows like you're not going to just be like, I'm going to do this for me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, so it's an interesting space to have that ask if she wasn't fully like, oh, this is amazing right off the bat,
Right.
right? So it's just there's just a dynamic, and I think you might. I mean, not that it will, but always, you're a business owner, you understand. So it's just like, okay, what if she's like, I'm out. Like, I'll just watch
Yeah.
from afar, right?
Right.
That's not where you want to be, but it's almost like prepare for that response.
Yeah. And
Um,
my feelings won't be hurt by that. I'm just looking for a definitive answer.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Um, I don't need her to be a part of it. I just very much want her
want
to
her.
be
Yeah,
because I can see number one how it could develop our relationship more.
hmm
Number two, see how it could develop her more. Um, and then I think on maybe even a tertiary note, like once the kids see us interacting in business together, they're going to want to get interested, or they will get interested.
hmm
Um, and I think the nature of the business is such that they could even contribute in some way.
yeah. I mean, I think it's awesome. That's what I'm saying. Just be consistent, be positive, and chill water whatever is growing, like the
Yeah,
seeds that you
yeah,
put in the
facts,
ground.
facts.
And obviously keep praying into it and being like, okay, Lord, like, what are we gonna do? What do you want me to say? Every time before you have a conversation, like, Holy Spirit, like, what should I say right now? What does she need me to highlight in this business so that we can lock in step? You know?
Yeah, see, now even that feels convincing to me. So I think it feels like it needs to be more of allow her to see what she needs or wants out of the situation and allow her to have all the information that she needs to make the decision that's best for her, right?
Oh, it's always that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Right, because you had that to make your decision.
Right.
So
Right.
you've had, and your personality is to research real heavy, real hard, figure it out how it's going to work. So you would have to give her the same time
Mm,
proportionate to her style of receiving information,
that's
right?
good.
Because
Yeah.
you're a binger, right? It might take her 2 weeks to gather what you gather in 2 days. So you have to figure out, you have to give her that space, right? Because right now you're in it. You're like, oh, I want you to jump in. This is amazing. She's like, I don't even really know what this is. And I know you're telling me, but like, maybe that's not my best learning style. So whatever her learning, maybe she has to read it. Maybe she has to watch the videos.
Right.
Maybe she has to hear it. So like, you've already figured out how you research and how you ingest the information. She's like, what are we even doing right now?
Yeah.
Like,
No, that's such a good
you know what I
point
mean?
because my perception is I've obtained not all of the information, but enough information for myself.
Correct.
And then what I have to be aware of is that now I've repackaged it and presented it to her as here's what I would like to do. Right. So it's been filtered and
Hmm.
she may not hear everything from me that I need her to.
Hmm.
I
Or that
may
she
only be
needs.
delivering to her what I want her to hear.
Hmm.
Ouch. Okay.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's good. Thank you. I needed that.
Yeah.
And especially the piece where it's, she's gonna have to do it in her own time. So my timeline of, "Oh, I'm ready to go now," and it's not gonna be her timeline.
Yeah.
So I get that. Okay.
Yeah. It's again, right? Our marriage is like, okay, one of us might be ready, but we just have to wait for the other. When we're both locked in step, then it's explosion, full speed ahead. Right.
Yeah.
So you may have to throttle back a little bit, right? Do your research, do your due diligence, stay consistent, slowly build it up. So by the time she's like, oh, I see what you're saying now, let's do this. Then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, I already have this all set up, and she'll get it, she'll understand it, and then boom, you take off.
Right. Right.
So yeah. And I
Thank you.
think
I needed that.
and I think that goes into, right, communicating about things when you transition. Right. So like um when we have to update, like, hey, this is now going on, this is new. Right, we've already taken it in, we're filtering it, we're giving it to our spouse. They may need more information than we're giving. Um, so they might be unsure with whatever's happening. Right. If you just say, hey, all right, I'm picking up this kid at this time, and then we're going to the next thing, but you never say how long it is, where it is, when you'll be back. Like, we're just okay, we're just
Right.
up in the air. Like, all right, when's bedtime? Are you gonna make sure you're feeding them? Like, do they have enough water for said activity? Right? Like, all this stuff is now filtering through the spouse's head that isn't doing the thing. So it's like, let's give them
Yeah.
all the information. I know, or if I'm consistent on making sure that they're fed, they have water, they have a change of clothes, now she doesn't have to ask me. But if I'm inconsistent, now she's thinking all those questions that I never gave an answer to.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
okay, so it's just uh, consistency is key, I
For sure.
think.
For sure.
No, and self-awareness, right? Like, I know that I'm not so good at giving all the details. So I can't be upset if she's asking me what could be seen as minute questions because I don't give details.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't contribute to our conversation as we're transitioning through anything. I have to know myself and know I may miss some details. She knows me and it's like, oh, he probably didn't even think about this thing. So she's going to ask, I'm going to give, and then we're going to, move on. They just
Yeah.
got to be self aware as well. So,
All right. Well, I think that was a great conversation. We are up on time. Any last nuggets you want to add on top of what you just dropped?
nope, I think that's it.
All right.
All right, y'all. We appreciate you rocking with us through this full episode. Again, if there's any value to this or you think someone could benefit, share it out. Leave us a comment on it wherever you're listening. Also, go to our website, Marriage is Tougher, and you can find the comment section there and leave a comment as well as be a guest. So we appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time.
Peace.